Anyway, welcome to the channel, and in this video we're going to be talking about the 5 mistakes, just the 5 mistakes that you will want to avoid when growing your windy Canary Island palms. So, to do this video justice, we came to the one place where you can find a decent selection of Canary Island plants. That's right, we've come to the Canary Islands. It's a bit windy. So here we have an absolute classic Canary Island palm, commonly known as the pineapple palm, for obvious reasons. You get this all like rounding pineapple shape at the base here when they cut all the stems off. And that leads me to mistake number 1, cutting off these old fronds. Now you might have something like this. You've got a rubbish old frond and you want to cut it from the base, and you would do so. Just be very careful of these nasty sharp spines there. You make a cut down there, but you're going to be very, very careful when cutting the fronds of this plant. The Canary Island palm is particularly susceptible to the fungus Fusarium wilt. So whenever you are cutting into the fronds, in particular the green wood, always make sure your blades are super clean because it is transferred very easily. And if you do have it, then it is always worth applying a wound seal that has a fungicide in it. So by all means cut off dead fronds, that's no problem at all, but when you start cutting into untidy, damaged fronds, then Fusarium wilt is one you need to keep an eye out for. Avoid cutting if you can, but I can understand why you'd want to cut it to maintain the shape. But always use sterilised blades, always use a wound seal with a fungicide in it. Now that leads me on quite nicely onto the second mistake you wish to avoid, and that is a problem with the pest, the South American palm weevil. Now if you cut plants or plants become damaged, these palms I'm talking about, then they can release these sort of stress chemicals from the wounds, and these chemicals attract, annoyingly so, attract the South American palm weevil. And what it does is this: it will find its way into the crown, start burrowing, start causing damage. This causes open wounds, it causes more stress chemicals, hormones to be released, attracting more weevils, and eventually they can eat out the center of this, which will kill the plant, or at least weaken it considerably. And then these open wounds can then also be open to infection from fungal diseases, which as a secondary infection can kill off the plant. So be really, really careful with regards to damaging particularly green wood of your Canary Island palm. However, there are excellent insecticides out there that you can spray onto your Canary Island palms. It will do the trick. The trouble is, these are very large growing plants. You can expect these plants to grow to between 10 and 20 meters tall, and in extreme cases you can get specimens up to about 40 meters tall, so absolutely enormous. Not only that, it might be 40 meters tall, you could also have a canopy about 12 meters wide, so it's huge. But how on earth do you spray a plant that big? Hey, let's be realistic, you probably can't unless you've got a lot of technology behind you. So you can spray small specimens like this because you've got access to the canopy, but larger ones maybe not. So always be careful of that one. That is a devastating pest. You've got to be really aware of this thing being around and take action if possible when you find it in the locality. And like I say, don't start cutting these if you know it's about. Do you know what? Mistake number 3. Might sound stupid, but it's a bit of an obvious one. Now, as I alluded to in a previous mistake, these are extremely large growing plants, quite slow growing, but extremely large. So if you live in a suburban part of the country and you're planning on putting these in because they look very ornamental, very cheap to buy, then you could be making a terrible mistake. Like I say, these are absolutely enormous plants and can easily swamp a small suburban garden. So the question you have to ask yourself before buying them: am I really doing the right thing? Can I accommodate a plant of this size? Because at least where I live, you see people plant them in their front gardens, and although they are slow growing, give it 20 years, and all that is growing in that garden is a Canary Island plant, they grow far too big. They need to be put into a rather large landscaping scheme. So it's a common mistake, it's an easy mistake to make. Seen it done so many times. It's a simple mistake to avoid. You're probably going to be buying the wrong palm, but you know what? If you've got the right place for it, they are absolutely magnificent. So buy it if you've got the space for it. If not, you're probably best avoiding it. Plant something different that's they'll take the space better. Get yourself a nice trachycarpus or a nice little European fan palm. But Canary Island palms, they're slow, they're gigantic. Make sure you've got space for it. Right, mistake number 4 is watering these bad boys. While the Canary Island palm is endemic to the Canary Islands, and we are on a Canary Island, but we're on the wrong one, one could argue. We're on Lanzarote. Lanzarote does not get an awful lot of rain. You're looking at approximately 100 millimeters of rain per year, although since I've been here, we've had rather a lot of it. Probably had at least all of it, or maybe a bit more, somebody else's rain, but whatever, we've had a lot of rain. But on the whole, it's a very, very dry country. You may live in the subtropics, but unless you get that sort of that Mediterranean kind of climate where you get, either wet summers or wet winters, you're probably not going to have enough water to sustain a plant this size. Don't forget, it's hugely leafy plant, and that uses a lot of water to transpire, keep the leaves from getting too hot. And that's an interesting thing. If you look at how the leaves come out, how they orientate when they're new, you'll notice that, and not on all of them, but on a lot of them, the leaves profile themselves so that come the hottest part of the day, when the sun is at its highest, the leaves are actually set at the edge of the leaf towards the sun, so it gets the minimum amount of light and heat on it at the hottest part of the day. And then during the morning and the evenings, when the sun is low, then it can get the light on it without getting burnt up by the heat of the sun. Anyway, watering, it doesn't get enough water in Lanzarote, which is why they all have to be irrigated. So you have to be aware that wherever you are planting these, whether it's in the southern states of America, around the Mediterranean basin, you might not be getting enough water on them, and if you don't, then they will struggle, they won't establish properly, a lot of your foliage will start to go brown. And something that I've been seeing a lot, at least around here, is they put down irrigation pipes, and what they don't do is actually put a nozzle, so that actually as a nozzle where the roots are, so it can get watered when they turn a tap on. So water just goes around a pipe, doesn't come out of it, and misses the plant. So you've got to make sure that these are watered, and they will take quite a lot of watering. If you're in the UK, because you can grow these on the south coast, the Scilly Isles actually do very well on the Scilly Isles. We've got some very, very large specimens over there because it's fantastic growing conditions, but they do need the water. They don't grow in the desert. Watering. Get the watering wrong, you're going to kill your plant off. So that's mistake number 4. Now the 5th mistake to avoid is regarding its cold hardiness. Now if you look at the RHS table of cold hardiness, my favourite organisation, it will say that the Canary Island palm is cold tolerant down to -8 degrees. Yet there is plenty of evidence that mature specimens will take temperatures, at least for a short period, down to between -10 and -12 degrees centigrade, which is absolutely phenomenal. However, it can only take these temperatures, these low temperatures, when it has an established trunk. If you're buying small plants, only like a year or two old, and it's just a sprout of stems coming straight out the pot, then it's not going to be cold enough to tolerate any temperatures that low. And really, you want to try and keep it away from frost as best as you can. And also, it's not just the cold when they're that small. If you get a combination of waterlogged soils and freezing temperatures, there's a good chance that your plant will die. So while they're young, they will not be able to take those cold temperatures. They're only going to be able to do that once they've established. You're probably looking at a good 3 to 4 years before they start producing a trunk thick enough to cope with the freezing temperatures. So that's quite an important one. You can do your research, you can see these figures and think, do you know what, they're perfectly fine to plant where I want to, and you plant it, then it dies. So be careful of that one. They're only that cold tolerant once they have matured and established a big thick trunk. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you've got anything you'd like to add, any mistakes that I should have mentioned but haven't, but don't forget I was only doing 5 in this one, then put that in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye from Lanzarote. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Right, now, just before you go, if you want to see more content more behind the scenes stuff and images that I've taken of some weird freaky plants over the years, then you're in luck, because we've created an Instagram page. So you can find the link in our description, you can find the link on our main page, and if I'm clever enough I might be able to get a link somewhere up there. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to see more YouTube stuff, then check out this video here. That's quite a good one. And if it doesn't float your boat, then another one right there. And enjoy these while still got the strength, imagination and aptitude to make them. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.